Welcome, good afternoon or good morning, I could say. Welcome to the second The Ocean Cleanup press briefing of the day. My name is Niels Broekhoff, and I would like to say welcome to our press friends joining us via Skype. And of course also welcome to our fans and followers on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Welcome all. This press briefing consists of two parts. The first part is the announcement that the Ocean Cleanup is going to make, and afterwards we have about 15 minutes to answer your questions. And I would like to ask you, when you have a question and a question pops up, don't hesitate to send them to us via Skype or via the social media channels, so we can already preload them and answer them as quickly as possible once the Q&A starts. So please answer or pose your questions when you have them. To my left, first, we have Boyan Slat, who is the CEO and founder of the Ocean Cleanup. To his right is Reiner the Fighter. He's hydrodynamics engineer. And to his right is Lonneke Holierhoek, who is the Chief Operations Officer of the Ocean Cleanup. I would like to give you the word, Boyan.
All right, thank you. And thank you all for joining us. This is the second briefing we're doing today because we're actually quite proud of the news that we're sharing here. So of course very happy to answer your questions in a bit about, of course, the latest news, the latest update from our activities in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So as most of you will know, at the Ocean Cleanup, our mission is to rid the world's oceans of plastic. And there our first priority is this area between Hawaii and California, this infamous Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is the largest accumulation zone of trash in the world. And exactly 7 years ago, age 18, I stood on a stage for the first time in my life. And there at my university, I shared my dream of how to rid the world's oceans of plastic. And the idea was, well, quite simple. Vessels are really expensive, and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is vast, and the plastic is really dispersed. So simply trawling for plastic would take forever and would just be really, really expensive. So I asked the audience rhetorically back in 2012, why would you go after the plastic if the plastic can also come to you? So I presented a passive concept that is driven by the natural forces of the oceans to catch the plastic. And while the idea was simple, the execution, it turned out, was anything but. And this wasn't helped by the fact that the idea was instantly dismissed, even ridiculed by some, who said that it was really a fool's errand that was never going to work. Fortunately, though, there were some who were willing to join me and actually just giving it a try. And for the past 5 years, what we did was we conducted expeditions to try and analyze the problem. We conducted experiments to try and develop the best technology. All the while, we continued to iterate the design quite a few times. But as something like this has never been done before, the path of progress wasn't exactly a straight line, and we kind of internally began to refer to these setbacks as unscheduled learning opportunities, and we actually had quite a few of those. So last September, we launched our first system from the from San Francisco into the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and literally 1 month later, we discovered that the system wasn't catching plastic, and the reason was that the system was moving at roughly the same speed as the plastic. So really there was a lack of speed difference between the two, therefore causing us to not collect plastic. And then just days before the end of the year, we had another unscheduled learning opportunity where an 18-meter end section disconnected from the rest of the system due to a fatigue fracture, which then forced us to tow the system back to port. So we regrouped. We analyzed the root causes, and we relaunched using System 1B in June. We tested multiple configurations and actually found one that resulted in a consistent speed difference. Yet, a new unscheduled learning opportunity arose. This time, it was something called overtopping. So what we have is this cork line that's on top of the screen. And what we saw is that the plastic was able to overtop the cork line, which meant that the plastic still wasn't really being caught by the system. It was still simply able to pass through it. But today, I am very happy to share with you that we are now catching plastic. By upgrading the system with a new, much higher cork line, we are now able to nearly eliminate the overtopping issue. And not only that, but we've been able to do so for all size classes of plastic. So from giant ghost nets all the way to the tiny microplastics, which means that we now have a self-contained system in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch that is using the natural forces of the ocean to passively catch and concentrate plastic, thereby confirming the most important principle behind our cleanup concept. And let's have a look how that looks like. So what we see here is the situation from July, August, right? So here's the screen, you have the floater, which keeps the system open. And what you see is that the plastic kind of ended in this area between these two elements. We call this the twilight zone. And this is where you don't want to have the plastic because it's not a safe area to retain the plastic. So we took this old screen out, and in the meantime, we prepared a new screen. Then we retrofitted the system, which actually is a really nice feature of System 1B, is that it's built up in such a modular fashion. So we can easily make adjustments even while we're offshore. We didn't have to return back to land. And then this was last week, where you see pretty much sea state 4, 5, at up to 3 meter high waves, and then you see how nicely the cork line is able to follow these quite choppy conditions, with the plastic staying on the correct side of the screen. So that's really important. That's what we need to be able to retain the plastics. And then in terms of what the system caught, well, here it's one of the objects that's kind of to the larger end of the spectrum. So this is a ghost net. A ghost net is like abundant fishing gear. See a nice mooring line here, and here you see. I think this was one of the first batches that we took out of the system, where you see medium-sized debris all the way down to the microplastics. So this is all smaller than 10 millimeters. What you're seeing here, all the way down to 1 millimeter, which is the smallest size that we collected so far. And then what we see here is I think the one of the last photos we took out there in the patch. I think this was yesterday, and you see after a few days of accumulation, you can really see that it's quite a mix of debris. You have the really tiny pieces, and you have the larger fishing-related debris. So, with coming back to system number 1, now that we have these conclusions, they really have given us sufficient confidence to now actually start the next phase of the development and work towards System 2. So we actually just initiated the System 2 development project. But if the journey up to this point taught us anything, it is that it's not going to be easy. And as a matter of fact, there's still quite a few hurdles that we have to overcome before we're actually ready to scale. And there's really 2 main elements that we hope to tackle in coming months. One is long-term survivability. So while the system has really been doing fine, of course, this one wasn't designed to stay out there for many years. So that's definitely something we still have to work on. Secondly, we have to make sure we can retain the plastic long term as well. So right now, the plastic is really able to stay in the system days, possibly weeks, but we have to go to months or even more than a year to make the economics work. So there's still quite a few things ahead of us, but for now, I'd really like to say that I'm extremely proud of the team and of all the supporters for making an impossible dream possible and for sticking at it for all these years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Boyan, for the overview. Great. Reiner, can you share with us how you came to this point from a technical point of view?
Yes, yeah, okay. Thank you, Niels. First of all, it's great to see that this foundation of our ocean cleanup system is now proven. As Niels announced, I'm Reiner de Vijter. I joined the ocean cleanup in 2016 as a hydrodynamic engineer. And since then, I've been offshore several times to see the performance of our ocean cleanup system out in the open ocean. Last time was this summer with the system 1B, the system that has been working so well. And out there, it was a very special moment to see this first plastic accumulating in front of the screen. And that was a very special moment. Therefore, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on 3 points why this was a special moment. And that will consist on the fact that we first managed to generate a speed difference with the plastic, between the system and the plastic. Secondly, the plastic is captured by the screen, it stays behind it. And thirdly, like Boyan said, we have been able to show this for all size classes of plastic. First, coming to the speed difference. Back in 2018, when we deployed our first system, named Wilson, we saw that the system and the plastic were basically moving at the same speed through the patch. And if you want to capture plastic, it's really important that you get this plastic into your system. So this deserved a lot of attention, and it got a lot of attention from within the engineering team. And we're very proud that we finally now have a system in which the plastic, in this particular situation, is going faster and is accumulating in the middle of the system. Secondly, in order to get this plastic there and to catch it, you need a screen. And in our case, it took some iterations, but now we have a screen which accumulates the plastics, which stops the plastic from flowing. That's why we see this nice buildup of plastic in front of it. And thirdly, like stated, it has been shown that this is the case for all size classes of plastic. And this may sound a little bit more trivial than it is, but although plastic may feel the same, may look the same, and might even smell the same, it inherently doesn't move the same through the ocean. If you have a piece of netting, a ghost net of 1 ton, it moves differently through the ocean than a small plastic particle of 1 millimeter. And here we needed to dive into the details. We went to basins to test the behavior of all these different types of plastic to really come up with a solution that works for this whole range. And that's why it also makes us very proud that we now have a system that captures the whole range of plastics, from the slow-moving ghost nets all the way down to the fast-moving microplastics. And that's why, combining all of these 3 points, we're very happy to say that now we have a system that concentrates the plastic, that catches the plastic using the environmental forces. It's ocean-powered. And from an engineering point of view, we're therefore very confident that we can make this thing work.
Thank you, Reiner. Thank you very much. Lonneke, can you explain the process of the ocean cleanup's operations, how that works?
Of course, Niels. A year ago, we started with Mission 1. After the initial nearshore trials, System 1, also known as Wilson, was deployed in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. We ensured continuous monitoring. We were next to it at all times with a vessel keeping a close eye, so we learned very quickly that there were still some issues and we still had more work to do. And then, when the system also broke, our resolve was most definitely put to a test. On deciding what to do next, we identified a few variations to our design concept that we really wanted to test. And by defining focus on definition of those test objectives and applying the art of omission, we managed to get back into operation within a record period of 6 months. System 1B, a more modular system than Wilson had been, was back in the patch on June 26. We initially planned for a testing sequence of about 2 months. And after those tests were completed, and very encouraged by the results that we'd seen, we decided we wanted to extend this operational period and these testing periods. That gave us the time to implement some further design improvements, which eventually led to the positive news that Boyan and Reinder just explained. The System 1B has now been operational offshore for 3 months. We extended its operations until the end of November so that we can gather more information so that we are in an even better position for the next phase that we are about to enter. But because we fulfilled the key objectives of this initial test, we are now moving and planning more experimental tests, which could possibly push the boundaries of the design criteria of the system. We plan to conclude Mission 1 in December, 15 months after we started it. With the lessons learned so far, we'll move into the next phase, which is the development of System 2, which should have improved performance and an extended design life. This design process will require much more testing, but possibly on component level, or possibly again applying modular-based systems to test different concepts. We learned from the successful quick relaunch that learning by doing is something we want to apply as much as possible. We're very proud of our achievements, and we're very pleased with the positive outcome. As an organization, we're also very grateful for the team members who've gone offshore for long periods, very far away from the comforts of home and office. We expect more challenges, more unscheduled learning opportunities, and a few more surprises even. But our team has proven to be steadfast and very resilient, which gives us full confidence for the future. As we can't do it alone, I want to end with a special thank you to our long-term partners, specifically the Dutch government and Maersk, who continue to play a vital role in our project.
Thank you, Lonneke. So, this was the ending of part 1. You now have the chance to send us some questions. I already have some on my screen now, so let me ask them to the team, but keep them coming, I would say. The first question that we're getting is from Twitter, and it's a nice question. Could you theoretically build a system from the plastic that you're collecting? Would that be possible?
Yeah, I'll answer this one. What we see is the ocean is a very harsh environment. It's really the harshest environment on this planet. So it's a big challenge to make something work out in the open ocean. That's the first thing. Secondly, the plastic that we get out of the ocean is already degraded significantly. It's a very nice idea. That would be great. As for now, we're not working on that directly because at this point in time, we really want to make the technology work. So that's our full focus for now.
All right. It could be done theoretically, or?
Yeah, I mean, without diving into details here, it would be a big challenge, but it could be done. Yeah.
I suppose through really chemical recycling, going back to the monomers. I mean, theoretically you could. I mean, of course, economics is a different question.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, all the plastic that's going into the cleanup system will be recycled afterwards. Yeah, indeed, on the material science point of view, it's really first getting the material up to a level that we can actually make it last for many years.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's clear. Thanks. A question that came up on Facebook. So what is your plan to increase the number of systems?
Yeah. Of course, before we scale to a whole fleet of systems, we first want to have sort of the one that's going to be the blueprint for all of those. And I think that it will take at least one more iteration, possibly a few more before we have that blueprint. Because, of course, once you scale, it's a big financial commitment, and you really want to make sure that you make the right kind of investment, because we're talking about quite significant sums of money. So we first need to have the confidence that it's the right time to scale. So it's first getting to the scalable system before we scale. So that's really the with System 2 we plan on working towards that.
And do you have any sentiment on when a scalable system will be ready? Do you have an idea about that? An estimation?
I think it's really too early to estimate that. I mean, we just initiated the System 2 project, and so in this current initiation phase, it's really part of it is developing those plannings. So so hopefully we'll have a better picture of that in coming months. Really.
Okay. Thank you. On YouTube, we received the following question. So, what will you do with the plastic that you have collected? You mentioned recycling also already.
Yes. So definitely, the plastic is going to be recycled. I'm actually very excited about the plan that the team is developing, and the products that are going to be made out of the plastic. What exactly we're going to do, and sort of more details on the whole plan for that. I think we should be ready to elaborate more on that once the first plastic is back into port. So it should be around December that we should be ready to share more.
Okay, December it is. A question on Twitter. So what's the smallest size you capture in millimeters or even micrometers? Maybe, or you?
Well, as said, we're capturing microplastics. The official boundary for microplastic is 5 millimeters. So we're very happy that we're below that, all the way down to 1 millimeter.
1 millimeter.
Yeah.
So another question on Facebook: is System 1B full size or smaller?
Sorry, compared to?
The previous model, I suspect.
Okay. Yeah, Wilson was the first system. Wilson was around 600 meters, and because we wanted to go back as soon as possible to learn as soon as possible, we scaled down the system to 140 meters. But important is that the working principle is scalable. So we hope to increase the size in the future.
Okay. A question on YouTube. The system could act as a shelter for marine life. How do you prevent extraction of plastics without harming the marine life?
Yeah. So far, what we've observed by through all these months that we've been out there with System 1 and System 1B is that we haven't seen any negative interaction between the system and marine life. Of course, we will continue to monitor this. We're really working with the foremost experts on the environmental impact, as well as particularly the fish aggregating device effect. So far, it doesn't appear to be a concern, but of course, as our objective is to solve an environmental problem, I think it's our responsibility to really be really careful with these kind of things. So. Okay.
Another interesting question: could you use other ships that are passing by to collect the system and collect garbage? To use them?
I suppose for research, observation, it could be an interesting option to use sort of vessels of opportunity. I think that's how you would refer to them. When you think of commercial freighters, they're going really fast. They have sort of commercial incentives to just continue. So I think what's the most important thing for to get the economics working is to simply not need a lot of vessels at all, to really have the system be able to operate, or the fleet of systems be able to operate for very long stretches of time without any human interference, without requiring a lot of maintenance nor frequent plastic collections. I think if we get that right, you really only need a couple of boats. So So I don't think it's really going to be an issue as long as we get the autonomy right.
Okay. For Lonneke, I have a question for you that's coming from YouTube. So, how long until you launch the next system?
Yeah, that's a good question,
Yeah.
Niels. Now, we just started the next phase, which involves scoping out the design questions that we have for System 2. So it's a little bit early to actually already attach a planning or a program on that yet. So within a few months, we will be able to answer that question.
Great. Looking forward to that. And on Facebook, another question. So, can't you use one of your systems on rivers to capture the plastics before they enter the oceans?
Yeah. So I think, again, a very interesting question, very interesting idea, but not for today.
Not for today.
No.
All right. Then I have another question on Facebook. Have you tested System 1B in stormy conditions? Maybe that's one for you, Ryan.
Yeah. Like Boyan and Lonneke said, our key objective was to get out there as quickly as possible. We had to make some shortcuts, especially on terms of the structural integrity. So we designed the system for summer conditions, and we've been out in summer conditions. So this system is not tested in winter storms. However, we have numerically proven that we can scale such a system to a system that would be able to survive winter conditions. But as for now, that's still ongoing research. Yeah.
So I think we've been up to 30 knots max, roughly 30.
30 knots, yeah, around 3 meter waves. And to put that into perspective, in winter conditions you can easily have waves up to 10 meters. So it's harsh, but we think it's doable.
It's doable.
Yeah.
So I think an interesting point that we talked about before is that really the sort of critical dimension for survivability, at least talking about the floater, is the steepness of the wave. So if you think of a wave that's 10 meter high, how long would that be? The wavelength would be.
Can't put it over.
Yeah. But the time would be roughly 15.
Oh yeah, 15, 16, 17 seconds. Yeah.
So these things are very long and slow. So in terms of steepness, it's not necessary that the highest waves are the most critical ones for survivability. Yeah.
Okay. A question on Facebook. So now you've tested the system in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Are you planning to move systems into more concentrated areas where there's more garbage?
Yeah. So definitely. So actually, right now, this the system is actually on its way back to port because we have to do a crew change with the vessel. We should be out again soon. And of course, what we'll be doing. So last week, unfortunately for the photos, we weren't in a high density zone. But of course, when we redeploy, we will reassess the latest forecast of where the plastic is, and redeploy where we expect the density to be highest.
Okay. We've got a question from Jeff Card, who works for Forbes. He asks, what data can you share on how much garbage was collected on a weekly, daily basis, or monthly with System 1B? Is there any data you can share?
Okay. So of course the objective of this first system wasn't to collect as much plastic as possible. It wasn't actually to collect plastic. It was really to prove the principles of the cleanup system. So hence we didn't really care that it wasn't big. We didn't really care that it wasn't in the high density zone now, because that again wasn't the objective. So we collected quite a lot of plastic, combination from the system, as well as just opportunistically collecting it whenever we were doing operations. But we don't have an exact number of that, and furthermore, you kind of want to avoid the whole discussions about wet weight, dry weight, clean plastic, dirty plastic. So we can't really give any numbers on that right now.
Okay. a question for Lonneke, coming from YouTube. So what do you plan to improve on the next system?
Yeah, as was mentioned previously, there's two major aspects that still need improving. One is the survivability, the expected design life that we want to extend. It needs to be able to operate in year-round conditions and preferably for more than a year as well. It should be able to stay in one piece. So that's one part that we will work on, and the second part is actually to improve the overall performance in how long it will be able to retain the plastic, and also depending on different conditions. So those are the main improvements that we will implement, and that's both necessary to be able to think about scaling up.
Boyan, a very valid question that I'm receiving here from Facebook. So, how do you pay for all this?
Yeah, with money.
With money.
Yeah. Of course, it's we wouldn't have been able to do this without the support of really quite an impressive amount of people around the world that put the money where their mouth was and supported us so far. So and that really has been a combination of a few major philanthropists, and then a very large group of people from all over the world that have supported us. All the way back, starting with the first crowdfunding campaigns in 2013 and 2014. So that's allowed us to get us to where we are, and hopefully a bit further. Big thanks to everyone that supported us so far through whatever means, even Facebook birthday fundraisers. It's all great. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great. Now this could be a question for Lonneke or Boyan. So, but how will the systems announce their presence in the area of ships, especially during night when they're not visible? Is there a solution for that?
Yeah, and we actually applied that solution on Wilson. There's different levels of safety in the maritime navigation that we applied. So a system which is there by itself, unmonitored or unaccompanied by a vessel, should always be clearly lit. So there should be lights on it, which we did on Wilson. It should be detectable by radar. So we made sure that was applicable as well. And it had even a transponder announcing its presence as a navigation aid, like vessels have an AIS. You could see it on your AIS. You could see it coming, and of course we take other precautions as well, that we make sure that there's notices to mariners, etc. For the system 1B, we dimmed it down a bit, so there were lights and there were GPS trackers on it, but not the full set that we had on Wilson. But for future systems, of course, we will make sure that that's all fitted again.
Okay, thank you, Lonneke. Feels safe. So, do you deploy in territorial waters only, or are also countries involved, Boyan?
Yeah, no. So we only deploy in international waters. Of course, and Lonneke, you can elaborate more on that. But government is involved. So.
Yeah, operating on the high seas does not mean that. There's no governing authority in a country, but there is. There are different conventions applicable to operating in the high seas. And what we managed to do, for which we are very grateful, is to work with the Dutch government to actually make sure that our systems, which we operate, are considered to be Dutch entities, under Dutch governance, really, on the oceans. Like a Dutch flagged vessel, we have Dutch ocean cleanup systems.
Okay. So we're going down to the last question, which is a very appropriate one. So what is the best way to support you at the moment? If people would like to support you, what can they do?
Yes, so it depends who it is, but generally I think there's really three things that we are most helped with. Of course, funding is always going to be necessary, and even though we're in a good situation now, of course, really working towards scale up, we're going to need a lot more help there. Secondly, we have quite a list of vacancies open right now. So if you do have skills, feel free to have a look at that list on our website, theoceancleanup.com. And thirdly, simply spreading the word. The more people know about what we do, I think the higher the probability of success. So any help there is also much appreciated.
All right. Well, I will certainly check out the website then for interesting vacancies.
Sure.
Well, thanks a lot for your time, and thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions that you feel are unanswered, you can also send them to us. So if you send an email to press@theoceancleanup.com, we'll try and answer them as quickly as possible. Give us some time, but we'll do our very best. Also on the website, there is a press kit available, the press releases are available, so go to theoceancleanup.com. There's a press section with all the information that you need, including the pictures that you just saw, some moving images. So it's all there. Any questions, mail us, and else I'll see you on the website. Thanks for your time, and goodbye. Thank you.